In a future not too far away, there is a city that never ends. We find ourselves watching an old man as he makes his way home through the alleyways. The old man lives with his daughter named Belle, in a not-so-nice area of the city. This had not always been the case, as the old man was once very successful and wealthy during the Queen's reign. During those times the Queen was worshipped by all, for she brought prosperity through love and technology. This era didn't last, when technology advanced and fast outpaced the human species. As a last resort, the Queen began a war to push back the advance of machines. For his successful campaigns on the battlefield, Belle's father won many titles and riches. But in the end, the war was lost. And with it he was stripped of his wealth, left with only injuries, and his daughter to care for. Since then humans and machines had merged even further. Belle's father warned her, every upgrade comes with a cost. By now most humans had upgrades of some form, blurring the line between organic and mechanical. Even though they looked down on Belle and her father for not having upgrades, she still cared for them, as she had a kind spirit. Poor humans couldn't afford proper upgrades, opting for cheap knockoffs, which caused many to become infected and very sick. Belle worked at the hospital caring for those who were experiencing adverse reactions to their upgrades. She would nurse them back to good health, but many didn't make it through. Her father's injuries meant he had limited abilities. As such, he worked every waking hour as a mechanic, fixing machines. Every morning he would go to the local parts store to collect what he needed for the day ahead. One morning on his way to work, he remembered it was Belle's birthday. He thought to himself, I have no money, what could I possibly give my only daughter? As he walked, from the corner of his eye, he noticed something. A twinkle coming from an old abandoned castle. The old man ventured inside as he was certain he saw something. Exploring the dark corridors he found what had caught his attention, and his eyes widened in surprise. It was a rose. In his joy he plucked the rose, knowing how much Belle loved flowers, a very rare item since the city's air had become so polluted. As he turned to leave, the castle doors slammed shut, and a booming voice echoed through the empty halls. Who dares steal from my domain? In fright the old man dropped the rose and it shattered on the floor. No! The voice screamed, what have you done? I am so sorry, pleaded the old man. It was an accident. I was passing and thought the rose didn't belong to anyone, and wanted it as a gift for my daughter's birthday. You have taken life from me, said the voice from the shadows. For this you owe me yours. Please, I will make it up to you, I promise, the old man begged, falling to his knees. And so you will, responded the voice. Out from the darkness appeared what could only be described as a beast, more machine than man. The old man froze in horror. You will work the rest of your days in my domain, said the beast. I have no choice but to accept, whispered the old man, fearing for his life. Please let me return home and gather my tools, and I will be back before the sun sets. So be it, but if you do not return, I will find you and take everything that you love, confirmed the beast. And so the old man was thrown outside, and began his journey home. When he arrived home he told Belle what had happened, and that he was never going back. But father, you made a promise, you mustn't break your promises. My dear Belle, this thing was more beast than man, and no promise can exist between a human and a machine. Father, surely deep down there is some humanity left inside this beast, and surely he will have enough heart to be reasonable. Let me go speak some sense to him. And with that she left before her father could stop her. Belle found the entrance to the castle as the sun was setting, and made her way inside. I'm sure there is someone deep inside this beast that will be understanding, she thought as she wandered the corridors. A snarling voice came from the darkness. "Who are you, and what are you doing in my domain?" Belle jumped with fright, and looked around to see where the voice had come from. "My name is Belle, and I'm here to speak with you about my father's promise. Your father has taken something dear to me, something which my mother left me. For that your father must serve his life in my domain," the voice echoed through the castle. "Please be reasonable, my father is old and is not well. He was simply searching for a gift for me." Belle offered, "Maybe I can take his place." "I accept," said the voice, and out of the darkness appeared the most horrific sight Belle had ever seen. She gasped at the monster that towered before her, but quickly composed herself, reminding herself that surely there was some good deep inside this beast. "Tonight you will sleep in a room I have designated, then join me for breakfast in the morning, after which you will begin your duties," said the beast. With that he turned and disappeared. Belle stood alone for a moment longer, then as if emerging from nowhere, a humanoid machine appeared beside her. "Hello, my name is One, and I will assist you during your stay. We are very excited to have you here," the machine assured her. "Please follow me to your room." And off it went. Belle quickly followed as One guided her down the many twisting and turning corridors of the castle to her room. As Belle entered, the door was closed and locked from the outside. She lay on her bed, worried for her father who was home all alone. "Well, let's see how things go in the morning," she thought optimistically as she drifted to sleep. When she awoke the next morning, she found the door open, and the humanoid called One, waiting outside. It took her to the breakfast hall where the beast sat in silence at the end of a long table. As she took her seat at the opposite end, the beast spoke. "I was once a prince. This castle used to have so much life, so much love. Since the war was lost, that love has gone." Belle felt sorry for the beast, and asked, "What can I do to help?" The beast responded, "Promise that you will love me, and marry me, that is all I ask." Belle was shocked, "But I barely know who you are, you can't expect this from me." Although Belle felt compassion for the beast and his situation, she knew that she was not in love with him. "I'm sorry, but I can't. Is there something else I can do for you, that you would let me go home to my father?" The beast paused. "Go to the church of my domain and give it life." And with that he stood and left the room. "Come on, let's go," said One. "I'm sure you will love our church. Master is very fond of that place." And off they went. When they arrived, Belle was amazed by the grandness of the space. A holy service had begun, so Belle and One took their place in the pews. As the organs played with such epic, yet lifeless accord, Belle felt as if the sound was permeating her entire body. It was uncomfortable for her, and she thought how she could bring life to such a place. Then an idea came to her. She began singing softly, then louder, then raising her voice so that it traveled through the entire church. She sang so beautifully, and her singing accompanied the organs so perfectly. All eyes turned and stared at her with hollow emptiness as they listened. Belle felt vulnerable, but while she kept singing, the organs continued to play. Then, the humanoids began to sing along. The voices, all in unison, filled the space with the sound of harmony. After some time, Belle felt her work was done, and asked One to take her back to her room as it was getting late. As she was leaving, she pondered. Those machines seemed to have some life in them now, maybe they were alive once. The next morning Belle joined the beast for breakfast again. "I've been to the church and I did my best to bring life to it. Would you please let me go see my father?" she asked. Again the beast responded, "Promise that you will love me, and marry me, that is all I ask." And again Belle replied, "I'm sorry, but I don't love you. Is there something else I can do for you, that you might let me go home to my father." There was a pause. Then the beast said, "In that case, go to the library of my domain and bring life to it." The beast stood and left the room. As if like clockwork, the humanoid named One appeared, and with a cheerful tone, asked Belle to follow. When they arrived, Belle was awestruck. The library was just as big as the church, but instead of pews, there were shelves filled with books from floor to ceiling. Books were constantly being moved and reorganized. Belle had always loved reading, but since most humans had upgrades and didn't need to read anymore, books had become hard to come by. She had never seen so many books in her life. "Master loves this library," said one. "You will notice that all of these books have been read, and the knowledge stored, so we don't read them anymore. Of course, you are welcome to read any and all of these books." In her glee, Belle picked up the first book she laid eyes on and began reading to herself. The more she read, the deeper she went into its captivating story. While she read, the thought again crossed her mind, "How can I bring life to this place?" As she continued reading, she began to stroll about the library. Her stroll soon turned into a skip, and then a dance. She was mesmerized by the words of the book, and her dancing reflected this. The humanoids all turned and watched her as she danced while reading the book. They began to move, and then dance, although it was clunky and very uncoordinated at first, all joining in unison, dancing through the library. After finishing her book, Belle asked one to take her back to her room for the night. As she left, the humanoids continued their mechanical dancing. She thought for a moment, they dance as if they were once alive. That night Belle woke hearing strange noises. She found her room door unlocked, and headed out into the darkness. Up ahead was the door of the beast's private room. The strange sounds were coming from behind the door, and Belle tiptoed closer to hear. "Hello, Belle." She jumped with a fright and spun around. It was One. "What are you doing, Belle?" asked One. "Oh my goodness, you scared me," she whispered. "Belle, you must go back to bed," said One. "I was in bed, but I heard noises and came to find out what they were." "Don't fret, Belle, it is just Master in his room. You mustn't disturb him while he works. Please go back to bed, Belle." All of a sudden the noises from behind the door stopped. "There, see. Nothing to concern yourself with." And with that, One ushered her back to her room. As Belle lay in bed, she pondered, what may be behind that door? "Oh well, in the morning I will ask the beast again to let me go and see my father. Hopefully this time he will agree." In the morning, as Belle headed toward the breakfast room, she heard the humanoids all singing and all dancing while they went about their duties maintaining the castle. Upon arriving, she found the beast sitting at the table in his usual spot, and she sat in hers. "I have done what you asked of me. Please, now will you let me go see my father?" "You have completed the tasks I set out for you," replied the beast. He paused. "Now, do you love me?" Belle was frustrated. "Please let me go and visit my father. I miss him terribly and am worried for his health." "I promise I will return," she said. "You may go then," said the beast, "but be back before the sun sets. I will be waiting for your return." With excitement, Belle got up and hurriedly left. The humanoid machines stopped their singing and dancing to watch her leave, but Belle didn't notice. She was so excited to finally be going home to see her father. When she arrived home, Belle and her father embraced each other. They were filled with joy, and with tears of happiness streaming down their faces, Belle told her father all about what had happened at the castle. Upon mentioning that she had to go back before sunset, her father begged her to stay. "Please, just stay a little while and you can return later tonight," he pleaded. "That beast and his castle will still be there, forever. Besides, you have completed everything that he asked you to do. Belle didn't want to break her promise, but she agreed to stay a while longer. After all, she would still return later that night, she thought to herself. And so she stayed late, and as the sun set, Belle and her father continued their time together, eating, singing, and dancing into the night. As it neared midnight, Belle said, "I really must go now, Father." With tears of regret swelling in his eyes, he nodded and let her leave after one final embrace. "I am sorry, Belle, for putting you in this position. Don't worry, Father, I'm sure the beast will eventually open his heart and let me come home for good." And into the night she went. Arriving at the castle entrance, she noticed that the doors were open. She slipped in, closing the doors behind her. The castle was quiet, there was no singing and no dancing. "Well, I guess everyone is busy." She headed down the dark corridors towards her room. As she passed the breakfast room, she saw the light was still on, and headed in to turn off the light. Then, she gasped. At the end of the table lay the beast, slouched over and not moving. She ran over to him, fearing the worst. "Only you can help me, Belle," spoke the beast, struggling with each breath. "What happened?" Belle said with concern and worry. "I am dying, Belle, and it was my own doing. You see, I asked you to go to the church and library which show the best of me. I thought maybe then, you would come to love me, yet, you did not. I let you go to see your father, and you promised that you would be back by sunset. When you did not return, I feared that you didn't love me, and that you never would, so I poisoned myself." With her arms around the beast, Belle began to cry. "I am so sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I never meant to hurt anyone. Please, what can I do so that you may live? All I ask is that you love me, truly love me." In that moment, Belle felt pressured, but saw the light disappearing from behind the beast's mechanical eyes. "Okay. I love you, and I will marry you. Please, just tell me how to keep you from dying. Take me to my room." The beast pointed toward the door that Belle had not entered. "Help me there so I may find the antidote." Belle helped the beast as he slowly inched toward the door. He unlocked it and they entered. The beast disappeared behind some equipment as Belle's eyes wandered the room. The first thing Belle saw was the large vats full of green fluid. There were cables everywhere. She saw that the strange noises she had heard in the night were coming from equipment around an operating table. Similar but much more advanced compared to what she worked with at the hospital. "Belle." She heard the beast behind her, though he sounded different. She turned to face him and froze in horror, seeing he had become somewhat larger, twisted, with eyes full of desire. His menacing figure towered over her as he moved closer. "Thank you, Belle. I feel much better." She felt his presence engulf her as he leaned in. "I am so happy to hear that you love me, and promise to be with me forever." He began to kiss her. She felt crawling under her face, as if he was inside her. Her body became numb, and she felt herself being lifted and placed on the operating table. Laying on the table, she heard the beast's voice inside her head. "Do not fret, Belle. You will never worry of dying or of growing old ever again. I will make sure we can be together, to love me forever, as you promised." Her heartbeat slowed, and she faded out of consciousness. When she came to, she found herself still lying on the operating table. Slowly, Belle sat up. Looking at her reflection, she saw cables protruding from the machine body she was now trapped within. "I didn't feel anything inside, and realized I never would, ever again."